Let us discuss the impact of changes in the government policy. When I'm talking about government policy, I'm talking about the new economic policy that was introduced in 1991. So let's discuss the change in the government policy on business and industry. You know, with the introduction of the new economic policy, the main aim was to free the industry from the chains of licensing. Right? Now, this was basically done by liberalization, wherein the licensing, fine, except for the 6 core areas, all the licenses were abolished, right? This was followed by privatization, wherein more of private equity was encouraged, more of private investment was encouraged, right? And thereafter an attempt was made to encourage more of foreign investment in our country for the industrial development of our country, right? This was done through globalization, right? So basically this new economic policy was also, you know, known by the name of, this was the LPG model. L stands for liberalization, P stands for privatization, and G stands for globalization. The main objectives of the new economic policy were, number one, rapid economic growth, which in turn is going to lead to higher standard of living. Definitely, if your economy grows, you know, if your economy grows, that in turn is going to leave people with more disposable income at hand, and thereby increasing their purchasing power, which further is going to increase their standard of living. Becoming self-dependent, reducing inequalities of income by generating more number of employment opportunities, and reducing unemployment and poverty. These were the 4 important objectives of new economic policy. And how were these objectives achieved? With the help of liberalization, privatization and globalization. Now, what were the main features of the new economic policy? Number one being delicensing, right? Earlier the license, you had to obtain licenses in almost all industrial areas, right? Then this policy, it abolished industrial licensing in all industrial projects except the 6 major ones, 6 core industries. Secondly, decreasing the role of public sector. Apart for 4 main areas, 4 industries, okay, apart for the 4 industries, rest all were opened to private sector also. Then disinvestment. Disinvestment matlab, the shares of बहुत सारी public undertakings के PSUs, public sector undertakings, बहुत सारी public sector undertakings के shares जो थे, हमने private sector को बेचना शुरू कर दिया, disinvest करना शुरू कर दिया. Fine, they were given in the hands of the private sector units. Then liberalization of foreign investments. Now, foreign investment was also a welcome to our country, right? Whatever restrictions and all were imposed over there, they were done away with. So, share of foreign equity was increased. Then, technical collaboration liberalized. Okay, now it was allowed to go in for a technical collaboration with other countries. Permissions were granted for entering into technology agreements with foreign countries. Then setting up of FIPB, that is Foreign Investment Promotion Board, that is to increase the amount of foreign investment in our country, right? Now coming to the LPG model. When we talk about liberalization, I said liberalization basically means freeing the Indian business and industry from all unnecessary government controls and restrictions, right, in the form of licenses. Now, it has taken place with respect to abolishing of license requirements in most of the industry, freedom in deciding the scale of business activities as to no restriction on expansion or contraction of the scale at which you are operating, then removal of restriction on movement of goods and services, freedom in fixing the price of the goods and services, and reduction in tax rates. Privatization means giving a greater role to the private sector in the nation building process. Okay? For this, the government included a policy of planned disinvestment. When we talked about disinvestment, this was majorly, ये क्यों किया गया था? Because हमें private sector का role increase करना है. Right? So, जितने भी PSUs थी, who were not performing up to the mark, right? They were all, वो सब हमने किसके लिए प्रपोज की? डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट के. उनके शेयर्स जो थे हमने प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स को बेच दिए. दे वर टेकन अप बाय द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. देन इट वाज डिसाइडेड दैट ऑल द लॉस मेकिंग यूनिट्स, ऑल द लॉस मेकिंग पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिट्स, दे विल बी हैंडेड ओवर टू BIFR, ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल एंड फाइनेंशियल रिकंस्ट्रक्शन. It allowed dilution in stake of government in public enterprises beyond 51%, which results in transfer of ownership and management of enterprises to the private sector, right? Then globalization. Globalization is integration of your economy, integration of your country's economy with the world economy. Right. Now, how the economic policy reforms aimed at all these reforms of liberalization, privatization and globalization, right? They aimed at import liberalization, right? Export promotion through rationalization in tariff structure and reforms with respect to foreign exchange. When we are talking about these import liberalization, fine, whatever the conditions, whatever the restrictions that were there as regards as imports were concerned, they were liberalized. Secondly, export promotion through rationalization in tariff structure, and third, reforms with respect to foreign exchange. Now, what was the impact of globalization on our economy? Number one, it increased the competition. Now, the business organizations in our country, fine, they were not only facing competitions from the other domestic business organizations, but also from the foreign companies, right? So the competition in the market had increased. More demanding customers. Now when customers were given a variety of a product to choose from, wherein they had the products which were produced indigenously, right, and they also had the products which were being manufactured by other foreign companies, fine. So we continuously had to meet up to the expectations of the customer in terms of the qualities, fine. Then rapidly changing technological environment. Now, rapidly changing technological environment has helped the business firms to improve upon their goods and services, equipments and methods in order to face competition and survive in the market. See, when you are competing with a foreign firm, fine, so you have to match up to their level of technology, what they are using. You have to match up to the quality that they are producing, because you are competing with them, right? So in order to be at the same level, be at the same pedestal, they were continuously fighting to raise their standards a little up and higher. Then necessity for change. When the environment has become so dynamic, since the market forces have become so dynamic and competitive, the firms had no other choice but to scan the environment continuously and keep changing accordingly, right? They have to change their activities continuously to survive in the market, otherwise they will be swiped away. Need for developing human resource. Now it becomes important, it becomes necessary for every organization to make sure that the human resources are well trained and well skilled, fine, to be able to handle the kind of the competition that we guys are into, right? Now they must have, Indian companies must have highly skilled, trained and competent human resource. Only then will they be able to meet up the competition which is there in the market, fine. Therefore a huge amount of money is now being spent on training and development of the employees. Then coming to last point, coming to market orientation. Earlier they had a production oriented market. Production oriented market meaning that they were more concerned about producing on a large scale, thereby reducing the cost of the product, because they thought that the customer would buy a product which is available at low cost and is widely available here and there, right? But now they have become market oriented firms and are analyzing the market first and then developing the product accordingly, which is able to meet the taste and preferences of the customer in just perfect manner, right? Earlier they were producing and then selling, right? Now they first analyze the market, produce and then sell.